Hello and welcome to Paradigm Playbook, a podcast for entrepreneurs in the business of sports. Your hosts, Dave Kozak and Steve Cook, are business owners, successful entrepreneurs, sports enthusiasts, avid readers, and longtime friends. For years, they've read every business book on the market and built successful companies with what they've learned. This podcast will give you the critical takeaways in just 15 minutes a week. It's a quick and easy playbook for building a winning sports business. And now, here are your hosts, Dave and Steve.
Want your business to run at peak efficiency? Contact us today at ParadigmPlaybook.com.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Paradigm Playbook with a special edition of Paradigm Playmakers. Steve, who is our
we're lucky
distinguished guest today?
Distinguished guest. It's a good friend, a longtime friend of mine, Bill Borges, who I guess a longtime friend of mine takes away a little bit of the distinguished part.
I don't know who I'm questioning at this point.
But anyway, so Bill's connected originally in the gymnastics side of it and has expanded and is doing a lot more things. And we'll talk about a bit of a partnership that Bill and I are putting together. But let's start out, Bill. Let's go back to when you launched your first entrepreneurial venture. Let's go back. Where did you come from?
Well, it started, I guess, that's 30 years ago now. I was a pre-med student and I decided I needed to work. I love gymnastics. So I took a part-time coaching job. And then I guess about 28 years ago, I told the owner of the gym then, I can't do this. My studies are getting too difficult. He's like, well, why don't you just buy the gym? So here we are. My mom wasn't very happy, but I decided, I did graduate, not with my, medical license, but so I've been in the gymnastics school business for 27 or 28 years now. It's pretty, it was an interesting business. I don't really run it that much anymore. My wife does most of the day to day. I kind of ventured out to some other things. And that was it,
Okay. And I do this all the time. So I'll back up and go before that. So let's go back, Bill, in high school. Were you the nerd, the jock, the always going to be a doctor? What were you in high school?
It's funny. I sat the fence. So I was involved with everything. So I was on sports. I wrestled, actually. I got into gymnastics kind of in a unique way. I stayed after school one day and we weren't supposed to. And the security at the time said, "What are you doing here?" Excuse me. I said, "Oh, I'm trying out for a sport." They're like, "Oh, gymnastics?" And I said, "Sure." So here we are in seventh grade. I guess it was seventh grade. I tried out for the gymnastics team. And then I never looked back. Yeah.
And did you grow up in New York?
I grew up in New York on Long Island, East End.
Okay.
Great. We love it here. We have the beaches, we have the Hamptons, so it's nice. I wouldn't want to leave quite yet.
Good. Although I do follow you and you do a bit of traveling, so I know Florida and Arizona in the recent past. I just saw that on your travel. So the gym business now. Take me through from when you bought it to the scaling of that business. What were the key things and how did you make that business different?
Well, when I took over, we had 4,000 square feet. I think we had about 108 kids. I remember that number.
Oh, wow.
So my goal, I was a team coach at the time. So of course I bought this facility and this, the thought process, I'm going to build a great team facility. Looking back, any new gym owners out there, I would say, don't build it for team, but that's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
You don't say.
We have this in other sports, the same thing. If you concentrate on the best baseball players, you're going to neglect the beginners and a good bit of the profit.
Yeah.
So anyway, go ahead.
So I went from the 4,000 square feet and then we found an 8,000 square foot building around the block. So I moved there. We built the pits, we built this training facility. Then I realized, wow, this is expensive. I need to try to bring in some money. So we started some, additional ancillary income streams. We started doing birthday parties, the whole gamut, what you see now. Mm-hmm. We started focusing on our instructional classes and that grew. So we then moved into a 10,000 square foot building. We were there for about I guess about 15 years. And then I decided to make the bigger move, and I bought a piece of land and I built a building. So we're now in that building. It's 20,000 square feet. It's fairly successful. We have gymnastics, ninja, cheerleading, tumbling, dance. We have some circus arts. And that's where we are right now, in the 20,000 square foot building that, cost a lot to keep the lights on.
So I love this. Big question. And I think a lot of people in that entrepreneurial seizure that they have right before they leap, how much did you know about business operations when you bought the business from the guy? How did that process go, and how did you develop as a business owner, entrepreneur over those periods of time? And what do you think is the most important thing now, looking back, that you understand that you didn't when you bought the first one?
It's funny you say that. To this day, I'm still learning lessons. You know how it is in business.
100%.
But when I took over, I knew absolutely nothing. I could teach a cartwheel. I could teach some giants. And I was like, I could do this. Look how easy it is.
Yeah.
And then you get into it and you're like, wow, this isn't so easy. You have the insurance and the staffing and the payroll. It just gets busy very quickly. Mm-hmm. So I decided, I'm a big reader. So I read a lot. So I just started buying business books. And I've read countless business books. I've talked with people. I have a lot of friends who are in business. And at the time I had a lot of business friends. So I just reached out. I'm not afraid to ask for help. I'm not afraid to ask for opinions. And I really believe that people who have a big ego and don't want to ask those questions or look for help, it's much harder for them. For me, I was like, you know what? I'll ask anybody. I'll steal an idea if I have to. I always give credit though. So the biggest thing I learned along the way is ask questions. Don't be afraid to fail, but learn from that and, move forward. So
it's interesting, as Bill is aware, I speak at a lot of the conferences for gymnastics. And the one consistent thing about it is there's this core of people that come to all the talks, and they're not the most needy, but they usually are the most successful. And they're people like Bill, and we had Christy Copeland on here before. They're these people that are just looking for one more edge, one more thing. You're always looking for something. So with all the activities you're running now, do you have a total number of students that are coming through on a weekly basis?
We're probably about 850, somewhere around 900 maybe. We haven't peaked 1,000 in a bit.
Okay.
Pre-COVID, we came back, but just there's a lot going on in our area. So we're fighting, like everybody else, I'm sure. We're fighting against lacrosse and swimming and soccer, dance. But, that's where we are. I'd love to hit that 1,000 again. That's my goal, but we're not quite there yet.
Yeah. So I want to just reflect back on what you said, Bill. Every successful entrepreneur I've ever been around or talked to is a compulsive information gatherer. And I used to watch this movie called Short Circuit, and Johnny Five was this robot, and he used to say, need input. And he would read the pages, he'd read the books in seconds. But a mentor of mine once said, people don't judge your intelligence by the crap that comes out of your mouth. They judge it by the questions you ask. And that advice to entrepreneurs: ask the question, ask for the help, ask, because that is how you gain intelligence, period. Right.
So to stick with that theme, we do this all the time, because the book thing is how Dave and I got started. And this podcast originally started with, I had this idea about, doing business by the book. And my, kind of play on words was, we're doing it by the book, but you have to buy the book. So so give us a recommendation on a book. Let's see if we can find one that we haven't read. This would be good.
Probably. Now, you probably read all the good ones, the Good to Great, the Max Gerber, you probably read them all.
I read those.
I'm looking at I have a ton of them, but I only, keep a couple of them out. But I will say The Disney Way was a good one I liked.
Okay.
Good to Great. I'm looking at my shelf. I've read them all. I've read, sports. I'm a big sports guy like you guys. It's not just gymnastics. I follow all sports. I'm really big into coaching my team. So I read a lot of sports books, the Joe Torre book. I just try to pick as much as many different types of people's brains as possible, because everybody has a unique way of looking at things.
Yeah, another great point. I mean, I gotta summarize the takeaway on that one, right? I will meet with people in different industries, and you get the people that flock to the people of the same industry. And it's like, man, you can learn so much from a different industry and a different model to incorporate and bring back to your business. So surround yourself with entrepreneurs of all flocks, right? Of all feathers.
Which, a perfect entree into, a topic that I want to discuss on here. I'm going to hold off on that for one moment because how long ago did you start All Gymnastics?
So we started allgymnastics.com about 5 years ago.
Okay. So describe that to the audience.
So I learned a lot. You asked originally, what did I learn in the beginning? I feel like this last 5 years, I've learned so much more. Mm-hmm. You always hear about people saying, oh, I bootstrapped this company. Like I did it all myself. When I started, it was just me. And looking back, I would have rather had a good team around me because it's the people. You can't do everything yourself. It just doesn't work. Mm-hmm. So 5 years ago, I had this idea, I want to start a website where everything gymnastics is in one place. It's very difficult to find gymnastics, memorabilia, sport items, meets, you have to scour the internet. So I said, let's create a central hub. So the brainchild was there. I bought the domain name, allgymnastics.com. I started interviewing developers. And at first, every developer said, oh, we can do this. And then quickly, when they saw the crux of it, they said, we can't do this. It's a lot of custom programming. So the first 2 years were very challenging. Finding a good developer who understood the gymnastics world but could code. It's hard to find those two things. So we went through some hard times. To this day, we still have people who say, oh, I don't like the site because of...
Oh, yeah. Sure.
That was 5 years ago. It works great now. Mm-hmm. So it's yeah.
So I know one of the functions that allgymnastics.com provides is the ability for event producers, people that are running a meet, to have you handle their registration. So how big of a part of that business is meet registration?
So right now, I would say about 70% of the site is the meet registration. So just to back up a little bit. So the site itself has a few core, components. We have the registration part. We have an online marketplace, similar to Amazon, where it's a multi-vendor marketplace. Other people list their products.
Okay.
So we're just the median. We take the sale, they fulfill it. Then we have a community where parents, coaches, athletes can go on and get resources, whether it's, what do I expect in my first meet, or what are the judges looking for? What kind of drills should I do? So we have that section. And then, we're launching a new section January 1st, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But yeah, right now the registration part is the lion's share of the site, but I'm starting to move away from that because that's working really well. And now our team is really working on the other stuff now.
So the new section that I'm intimately involved in, and I started bending Bill's ear a year ago about my goals, and just as Bill said, you can't do it alone. By the way, book reference right here. It's a book called Never Fly Solo by Waldo Waldman. It's a great book. Airline pilot. Anyway. It's a good book about not flying solo. But so Bill is launching a business section of All Gymnastics. It will be Gym Biz, and that Paradigm Playbook is partnering in this to provide content on there. For the same reason, is that because people in the gymnastic business, and we're starting with gymnastics because that's where Bill and I know, but this is not limited. Obviously, Paradigm Playbook is not limited to one sport or sports at all.
Yeah.
So we're going to go in any different direction. But once we get the links right, you'll be able to go there for content that we're producing at Paradigm Playbook. And now we have the ability through Playmakers to have those that we interview create content that we can share, so that Paradigm Playbook and Gym Biz become this resource where you can go when, hey, I just need a punch in the gut about marketing. I just need, how can I get more creative? What do I need to know about innovation? And today, what did we talk about? We talked about goals and planning, and there will be articles there so that, and now, so Bill, I don't know if I even told you this. So all of our past podcasts are now available on paradigmplaybook.com, but they will also be linked to Gym Biz so that we can have two ways. So we're excited about that. A bit nervous about the January 1 launch. Are we going to be ready?
I probably shouldn't have thrown that out there, but I find if I don't have a deadline, like if there's not a hard deadline there, you can always say tomorrow, I'll get it done. You need to.
It's interesting. Just in the last podcast we just did, we talked about deadlines, and a missed deadline is time to set a new deadline. So you have to have deadlines. Yeah. That's also, so what was the biggest challenge? Oh, you said developer was the biggest challenge of starting the .com business.
Now, I will say outside of that, it's really just getting users to understand, you have to build a product that anybody can use, and that's the hardest thing. You want to create it super simple, but it's a complicated process. So you have to take this thing and kind of, for lack of a better word, dumb it down, excuse me.
Sure.
To a point where anybody can use it. Because we still get people, how do I find the website? How do I do this? So we tried to really come up with a super user-friendly model, and it seems to be working now, but it took us, and we're still working on it. We take a lot of data points, we do surveys, we ask people, how can we make this better for you? And then we'll incorporate that stuff in. But our biggest challenge right now is really just the marketing. That's why I love listening to some of your podcasts, and, Ms. Copeland had her marketing section there. But like, you have to be able to get the word out there. You can build it, but sometimes they don't come. You have to show the people what's out there. So our biggest challenge right now is how to market and get it to the masses.
Are you ready to learn and discover new ideas? We want to hear from you. Share your questions, thoughts, and ideas for the Paradigm Playbook podcast. We value your input and want to create episodes that match your interests. Leave a comment or send us an email at playbook@paradigmplaybook.com.
Yeah, so near and dear to my heart, I, in November, launched a direct-to-consumer environment that, first of all, I echo the challenge of having unique industry, multiple functionality, multiple kind of unique communities all tapped into the same place, and trying to think through that systematically, and then from an IT standpoint and a user interface standpoint. And then the hardest part, I agree, is like, you have to build it to the lowest common denominator of end user. So like a sophisticated computer savvy person may get how to use different tools on a site, but you're limiting yourself in who's going to show up there. And so we went over complex, and like, I mean, it's an amazing tool and product that we created, but like, you got to have an education to be able to use this thing. So we're systematically in the process of like paring it down and making it step by step, simple user interfaces so people can understand it. Because at the end of the day, if you don't do that, you either people just bail out or you jam up your customer service environment.
Right. Exactly.
And, as Bill mentioned earlier, I mean, the business in sports developed in different areas, one in coaching, but they're not unrelated. So there's got to be something to pull it all together. And it's interesting that the chemistry of Paradigm Financial and Paradigm Playbook, how that, we just got talking, and we had people, customers, clients develop for Paradigm Financial from Paradigm Playbook, because we're talking sports, and one of the divisions of Paradigm Financial is Elite Collegiate Planning, which helps families figure out how to pay for college. What's the right college? How are we going to pay for this? How do we start saving? And all of a sudden it starts tying in. Now I'm thinking, hey, there's an article for, on the business, that's Gym Biz. And we had Tom Kozak on. Tom Kozak, yeah, right.
Yeah, he was Victory.
And he runs Victory, which ties to it. And Dave and Tom got off on a great conversation because one helps you pick the right college for sports, and one helps you figure out, is that the right college that you can pay for? Yeah. So, and it all ties together, and you can connect them to the competition, or to the apparel, to the fans, or to the so. Sports is great. I'm a huge believer that the fate of the world depends on how our kids develop, and how our kids develop is dependent on sport. So I think that, it's hard to disagree with that.
Every good thing that's happened in my life is a result of baseball. End.
Yeah.
That's
how he met me.
I met Steve. I met my wife. I met my business partner. It literally, everything that has been a progression has been a result of my athletic connections in sports. And now I'm not in the sports industry. I've done the private coaching. I've done all that stuff. But I met Matt McCarter.
Oh yeah,
who's across the hall at Grand Slam, teaching his kid, when his kid's now 18, when he was 4, how to throw a baseball. So.
Yeah, I met his partner before he met his partner.
Yeah,
so
correct.
Yeah, so I want to go back for a minute. And so we have a lot of business owners that listen to this, but we also have coaches that have this in their head, like, do I want to make this leap? And one of our favorite books is the E-Myth, Entrepreneurial Leap, that people go through. So if we're talking to a coach, what are the signs that a coach should be thinking about? When you maybe this isn't a good example, but you said that when you went from coach to owner, you knew very little other than you could coach and you could develop a better team. So what should people be looking internally at themselves to make that decision if they're going to launch into an entrepreneurial career?
Right. Yeah. So, having gone through it, just like I'm sure you guys have, it really comes down to your work ethic, what you're willing to do. You have to go that next step. So it's not, I have friends with degrees, friends with, without college degrees, and they're successful. I don't necessarily think it's the educational side. I think it's the internal side. So when I look at a staff member who, I want to be a manager or director, or maybe somebody who will ultimately be my exit strategy. I try to look at somebody or people in the way that, okay, did they take that next step? Did they come in, punch in, do their job and leave? You get those people who want to do more. They come up with ideas. They say, oh, we could make it better this way. It's the people with the thought process of always moving forward that I like. I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, it does. And I think that to do this, you have to enjoy the process, because in the end, you're going to sell it or give it away. So you have to enjoy the process of building. And I think there's a lot happening, with the internet, and we can dig into how kids are growing up now. But there's you go on every other podcast is, how to make $1 million and, the 4-hour work week. And, and we never want to get into the position where we're going to say that you should do this to make easy money, because there's nothing about this that's easy. It's like, but do you agree that that's what's being preached in the, in the world? People are saying it's like, I did this, and, with this one webinar, I, got $1 million. It's like, you see them all the time.
Yeah. It only took them 25 years to get to that webinar that makes them that money.
Yeah. And we're able to say that, the only thing that we can guarantee you is that you won't have to work more than 24 hours a day. That's the only guarantee that we can give you. But
I think the quote, Steve, just to jump in, sorry to interrupt you, but entrepreneurs work harder. How's it go? Hold on. I'll get it. Entrepreneurism is working harder than most will. How is it? I'll come back to it, but
it's something you got to be willing to do the work that most people don't want to do. That aren't
so you can live the rest of your life like most people can't. Right?
Yeah. So so Bill's story is, I don't want to say typical, but typical of successful entrepreneurs, because when you get something to where it's running, and somewhere back there you said, you don't do that much in the gym. Your wife can run it, and although I know when that meet was coming up a week or two ago, you dug in pretty deep, but that's,
I'm still in there. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying I don't do that day to day, but I do a lot.
What happens is, as an entrepreneur, you develop that mindset. And as you get to the point where you can finally relax and you have a little bit more time, most people like Bill, and Bill did, start another business.
Yeah.
Which is what, Dave got a little bit of a comfort level, a couple years ago with Paradigm Financial, and he launched Paradigm Playbook, and then he bought Elite Collegiate Planning. And so it's what entrepreneurs do. And I don't think any of us are ashamed of it. We're proud of it, but it's never going to be easy.
Yeah. I do feel, just to back up, you had said the message out there. You're right. I think the message predominantly now is things can be easy if you, read my book, do this, do that. And I just think it's not like that.
Yeah.
You need to work hard. And like you guys, it's a little addictive, right? So you're right. The gym is going well. So I went on to my next thing. So it's funny. My friends call me a parallel entrepreneur. I'm like, I don't know what that is, but I like the term. Because in addition, I have some other things going on, but I feel like I always want to learn more. I always want to do more. And it's funny because I do have other people who say, oh, you're so lucky. Everything you do works. And I'm like, I work 7 days a week, 29 hours a day. It's not luck. What do they say to you? The harder you work, the luckier you get.
Yeah. Fortune favors the prepared mind, right?
Yeah. So
it's crazy. I love this job. But in what you were saying, you were reflecting on the question Steve asked about the people that are ready for the entrepreneurial seizure. And it got me thinking about like my business and how I look at my employees and all that. And I can tell you the people that are ready, that you want to make sure you take care of so that you can do the succession right, are the people that do the work, do unpaid work because they have character principles and a morality that they want to bring something more to the table. And you watch that person and you take care of that person. Richard Branson said it best, right? Teach people so they could do it on their own, treat them well enough so they never want to, right? Until you have that exit strategy. But I'm thinking about the people that have just in my company alone that have given me the success are the ones that, like, they're leaving at 8:00 at night. The lights are out. They're not getting paid for that, but they know the job needs to be done and they're taking care of it, or they take the work home and they're early in the morning. Those are the people that you can really either propel forward. And I tell my guys all the time, like, if you decide you want to hang your shingle, I can give you all the tools, products, and ways to do it. And we can do a joint venture and I can get you on your own. Like, it's not something that I'm down. Hey, if it expands and I can get a piece of the expansion and I can help grow something bigger, I'm into it.
And, and if you're willing to accept the failures that come along with it, because like everything we do, and Bill rattled off, 10 different programs he has at his facility now, but there's 5 others, and we'll go back to the skateboard park that we talked about and built that whole thing. And, we were pretty deep into it, and, Bill, had to pivot on that and went in a different direction. But those things happen. I think, before we go too long, we're going to wrap this up. But and then what Dave said, I want to pile on, because one of the things that I kept seeing Bill at was running a national gymnastics event that he was very deep involved in. And I saw him there every year. I was involved in it too. So I saw him there every year, to the point that I assumed that he owned it. And he didn't. He was helping out because it was the right thing to do. And I don't want to go into that event, but that's the type of person, and that's how you're going to be successful. And that's when Bill started talking about gym biz, I said, okay, yeah, I'm in. It's like, I don't know how we're going to do it, but we're going to make it work, and it's all going to tie together. And we will be a resource for those in gymnastics and eventually in the sports world that want to be an entrepreneur and want information and understand that they don't have to fly solo. Anyway, that was my wrap up.
Loved it.
There's I don't know if it's a question or a comment or an insight look, Bill, that I want to ask you, but I was given this advice probably at the launch of my third company, and I'd still maintained company number 1 and number 2 and launch number 3. This is 2014. And you're in that formative stage where you're building everything, you're getting it set up, you're investing money. You don't know if it's going to prove out, right?
Yep.
And in that moment, everything seems insurmountable. It's like this, just one after the next. And one of my mentors pulled me aside and said, listen, he said, when you got a $500,000 business, you got $500,000 business problems. When you got a startup, you got startup problems. And when you have a $5 million, you got $5 million, $10 million, so on and so forth. And he said, you'll look back someday and you'll go, golly, I wish I had a $500,000 business problem, because they just get bigger and more real and more consequential. But in that same token, you build capacity within your brain, within your talent, within your delegation, within your capability as an owner. And like, you just can take on more. And it's this juxtaposition where, man, I wish I had some of the problems I had before, which was like, hey, we got to order envelopes, versus get business
That's
cards.
right, we're out of pizza dough.
Yeah, versus I got to make an IT, a complete infrastructure shift here, and it's going to be a 18-month process, and there's going to be migrations galore and everything else, right?
Yeah.
Did you experience the same thing across your kind of expansion here?
100%. You hit the nail on the head. There were times where I say, I wish I could just go coach a birthday party. Saying, 3 months from now, it's going to take me 3 months to redo the back end of my marketplace. Yeah.
But that's how we learn, and so everybody understands that nothing that Bill said was staged. I didn't tell him to do that. So his reference to reading all those books, although we preach it all the time,
every day,
we didn't tell him to say that. I believe that leaders are readers, and that's a good place to start. You've got a lot of mentors that are sitting there on your bookshelf. And I
got a new one I'm going to drop, and I should have dropped it in the other one, but Bill, you should check out Unreasonable Hospitality.
Yes.
It's about 11 Madison Park, which was number 1 James Beard restaurant, and didn't start there. And the whole journey and how it applies to business is amazing, because at the end of the day, unless you're manufacturing a widget, you're in customer service. Right? Every company, we're in customer service. I sell financial products. I help kids. It's all customer service focused. And that Unreasonable Hospitality is a very awesome concept.
Hey, we were talking about segments in Gym Biz, but maybe we have a book review section. So let's think about that there. So we're doing a little brainstorming right here online. So anything to close with, Bill, we really appreciate that.
That's the mic drop where the next business comes out, right?
We're starting new business.
It is that simple, people. Yeah. Sometimes somebody throws it out. It just plants the seed in your brain, and 18 months later, it's sprouted.
Yeah, and it's like every time I would say to David, let's have breakfast. Oh God, here it comes. But anyway, very good, Bill. We really appreciate you coming on. We'll do this again after the launch. So you're committed to the launch. What's the date again? I want everybody to hear it.
January 1st.
Okay. And they will be able to access Gym Biz by going to allgymnastics.com/gymbiz.
Yep. There'll be a link right on that page as well if they don't want to put the backslash.
Okay.
Awesome. Yeah. Cool stuff. Hey, Bill, great to meet you. I love what you're doing, man. Keep it up.
You too. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Have a great one. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. If you like what you saw, please subscribe and look for Playmakers.
And that's Bill, the Paradigm Playmaker there.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
With all the noise out there, it's hard to know who to listen to. Let us help you reach your business and professional goals. Visit ParadigmPlaybook.com for more information.